Welcome, everybody, to the JPDUB podcast, episode 16. High Spirits with the one, the only musical comedy marijuana connoisseur legend, Tommy motherfucking Chong in the house.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything less?
And thank you again.
Civilized.
Yes, very nice. Very nice.
Tommy, I'm curious, what are you sparking, man? Are you
I smoke shit that I don't even remember rolling. But I must have rolled it because I smoke joints now. I was smoking bongs, but the whole ritual takes too long. And I like joints because I can monitor my intake.
Yeah.
You know, and if I want to stay coherent and not shut up, I don't inhale. That's the secret.
Oh, man. Tips from the pros.
See, and when I inhale, I wait to the very last and just take a little bit at the end. And that way, I get the benefit of looking like I've got a lot of smoke going on, but I monitor it so that it doesn't shut me up and makes me boring, you know?
Oh, yeah, I feel you on that. I got this big hooter rolled up, 3 different kinds of good kind weed.
Now, see, if you had one of my joint holders, you could, like, set it down like mine, see? And then
oh, my goodness,
you know,
that's...
rock away. Isn't that cool?
That's fucking awesome. I have to get me one. When you coming out with those?
I love it.
But just stay tuned. I'm gonna. They're all going to come out pretty quick. You know, I'm. You know, Cheech has got an art gallery now. Did we tell you about that?
No,
really.
The city of Riverside. Check this out. The city of Riverside donated their public library, 3-story building, beautiful old Spanish-style building, to Cheech for his Chicano art collection.
That's
and
awesome.
So his entire art collection will be housed in this 3-story gallery called the Cheech.
Are you going to have your little room, a little smoke room in there called the Chong?
Well, so far, I have not been invited. I just got invited to the special family opening. They've had a couple of openings already, which I wasn't invited to, which is fine. I'm not a Chicano artist by no means.
You don't say.
I am an artist, though, and I make joint holders.
Yeah,
there you go.
Cheers. Hey, man, this one's mostly Maui Wowie, but there's some Labrador in it.
Wasn't that a funny bit?
Dude, so many funny bits. That's kind of a good little segue here. Out of all the funny bits that you and Cheech came up with for these movies and these comedy albums, what would you say is the one closest to your heart? What's the one that made you laugh the most?
Dave's Not Here. Dave's Not Here. It was our first.
Yes.
It was our first attempt to do a record. And it just showed us how to do records, albums. And it was our first album cut. And what happened when we signed with Lou Adler, he said, "What do you need?" And I told him a couple of grand each and a little tape recorder. And so he got the money and then the tape recorder. And so Cheech and I went into the back room in A&M Records to record it. And Cheech went outside with his costume on. Now, we're doing a record, mind you, so there were no visuals. It wasn't being photographed, although I should have. Anyway, he was out in this really hot courtyard. And and he knocked on the door, and I was supposed to open the door and let him in. But instead of letting him in, I got distracted with the knock. I looked up instead of looking at the recorder, and I couldn't tell if it was recording or not. So I kind of waited a little bit too long, and so he knocked again. And this time I could hear in the knock, he was a little impatient. "What are you doing?" Come on, open up. and so then I started the bit. I started by saying, who is it? I wasn't supposed to say that. I was supposed to just let him in.
Knocking, but you can't come in.
I kept him out there as long as I could, and it got funnier and funnier and funnier. And that was our first and probably our biggest record ever. Dave's not here.
Great, man. And it stands the test of time. I go back and for me, I know all three of us are huge fans, brother. We grew up with Cheech and Chong, man. I can remember I started smoking pot back in I think summer of 4th grade going into 5th grade. And that was also the time I discovered you guys. And I was huge into the rock and roll thing, so it's it all came together. And I remember having birthday parties. We go and rent out all the Cheech and Chong movies and watch them, repeatedly throughout the night while we're fucking partying and stuff. And we were like a party thing. You didn't have to sit and watch. You could do your thing and then come back. Yeah, Cheech and I, when we first went on the road, we'd get invited to a party. We got invited to this one party, and they're partying, and they put on the Cheech and Chong album, and it's playing, and everybody listens to it once in a while, but they're partying, and it's part of the soundtrack. Yeah, I was pretty amazed when I saw that.
You probably hear stories all the time about all the different ways that people consumed everything you and Cheech did. And we all have our stories too. I was excited when we found out we would get the interview because I never had any context with the marijuana stuff. I was just a dumb little kid, and I was one of 6 people that the DARE program worked on. So I think I was 9 years old, looking for something to listen to. Musically and whatever at my local library, and I saw Big Bamboo on tape. And like I said, I was like a 9-year-old, and I suppose the librarians didn't know what I was listening to, and all that did was start this obsession that I had, and it turned into an obsession with talk radio and stand-up comedy and all your comedy tapes, and that's why we podcast. And I know I'm very excited. You are a massive influence in my comedy brain. It all started and all the weed stuff. Like my favorite bit was Blind Melon.
Blind Melon Chitlin was the best.
I just re-listened to that a couple weeks ago, and I was like, shit, 99% of the stuff you guys did still holds up. It's crazy, and it's like there are only a few comedy minds and comedy skits and musicians and any artists that can keep, when the new generation comes, like if you listen to Bob Hope from back in the day, that comedy's not funny anymore.
No.
And there's comedy now from like the 90s, the 2000s that is starting to become like, you could see that transition into that shit's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
But there's something about your guys' comedy just keeps it probably keeps you guys young too. Where you get new people constantly coming in going, holy shit, like this taps into my funny bone, or this taps into the counterculture, all that stuff. Because counterculture is always shifting too. And it's crazy that you can still tap into that Cheech and Chong vein.
Well, what we did, just like when we did the Corsican Brothers, man. We
love that movie.
We kept it so juvenile.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, when you're a kid, and you're unfettered, you have no prejudices at all. You just want to hear, and that's, I think that was part of it, because we had no axe to grind. When Cheech and I would go into the studio, we just went in there to smoke a joint and have fun, and see how much funny shit we could come up with. There was no pressure anytime. And still, even when we did our movies, our movies, it was people said, how do you get away with it all? I said, well, first of all, it never cost anything. Our recording, we never used we used an engineer, and that was it. We would go to a little mix down room with it. One guy, his job was really to turn it on and turn it off, basically, and maybe clean up a tape here and there, maybe spice this over that. Yeah. And then Lou Adler would listen to it at his leisure at home, and then he would give me notes, and then we would go either fix it or make it better or leave it alone. And it was really the of the moment, the freedom. And comedy is tied in with truth. You know, and truth is eternal. You know, the true truth is, no matter what day or, you know, what era, whatever, it's funny. It just is funny. And if it's not funny, it's like quietly funny. Like, I'm not supposed to laugh, but that shit's funny. You know? and I again, you know, when people ask me, you know, how did you become a comedian? It was just, I tried everything else and nothing else really worked. And, but yet, and it's what I enjoy and what people enjoy the most of, you know?
Yeah.
Because even I wrote a song, Does Your Mama Know About Me? I wrote a poem. It wasn't a song, it was a poem. And this musician got it, and put it to music. But when we went to record it, my guitar playing wasn't up to snuff to record. And so I had to sit in the control booth and listen to another guitar player play the licks that I could have played. But instead of being, you know, feeling left out, I felt, well, this is right, you know, because I'm not a guitar player, you know, and just like I'm not anything, but I am everything.
I love it. Yes.
Yeah. Dude, speaking of the guitar playing, I mean, you were basically signed to a subsidiary of Motown Records back in the day?
Oh yeah, Motown. And played with Hendrix, you know, and just one night, and
wow,
he played bass. He played bass. I played rhythm guitar, and Eddie Patterson played lead guitar. And I might have had a solo. I doubt it though, with Hendrix sitting there or playing the bass.
Right.
But you know, no, I could play guitar since I was 8 years old. And so it was something that I had to do. It wasn't something that I dreamt about being a guitar player.
Right.
In fact, if I had to do it all over again, I would probably pick the piano, because you can do more, you know, with the keyboards than anything else. Although the guitar really makes you mobile.
Yep.
You know?
And it just looks badass. Come on.
Yeah.
Or you can combine them both and get a guitar and say, fuck the world.
Well, with me, you
well.
know, what really attracted me to the guitar was the effect it had on people, on girls especially.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
me and my buddy used to take the bus over to his house and carry my guitar and amp up a couple of blocks to his house, and we'd get it all set up, and then we'd play all night, and sometime and then wake up the next day and pick up the guitars and start playing. And sometimes we'd phone up some girls, or the girls would phone us, and we'd say, hey, listen to this, and put the phone down. And then we forgot the phone was there, and we'd play about 2 or 3 hours and then pick up the phone and say, hello. And they'd still be there.
Awesome.
Awesome. I usually drove people away when I started playing. So I just played louder and faster. Yeah.
Well, they never had amplifiers that's how long ago I played. The guitar amp really was just coming into vogue. In fact, the first rig I had was a Fender 15-inch speaker. And we ran my brother's bass and my guitar through the same speaker, through the same amp.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And then when the speaker broke, I got that gutsy, dirty blues sound with it.
Yeah.
There you go. Who's some of your favorite guitar players?
I like, believe it or not, I like Stanley Jordan. I like, of course, the old jazz guys, Wes Montgomery.
Oh,
I knew
Wes.
Wes.
He's the Indiana boy. That's where we're from, man.
Wes?
Yep. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, Wes. I had a private concert with him one time because he played a club in Vancouver, and it was a jazz club / private doper hangout. and most of the junkie, it was junkie heaven in Vancouver. And so most of the audience, 15 or so of them, were basically passed out or nodding out.
Them jazz
musicians. And the Wes came out, and I was the only guy there, and I'm an eager guitar player. And so him and I had a beautiful conversation for about an hour, almost an hour. And then he said, well, I better play a set. And then he got out his guitar and he played a set. And I was the only guy sitting there listening to him.
Oh, man.
Wow. You talk about a thrill and a half, boy.
Dude, yeah. Wow. That guy was a legend, dude. Jazz guitar. Django Reinhardt was another one of my favorite jazz guitarists. That guy was.
Oh, yeah. And both of them were fucked up physically. Like Wes, the reason he played with his thumb is that he lived in an apartment and he couldn't be loud. And so he would practice with his thumb. And then he got so good that he could only play with his thumb. He could play with the pick, but he'd rather play with his thumb. He got more, he could do more with his thumb. And yeah, he never played loud at all. He was very mellow, like jazz, guys. Hendrix, on the other hand, man, I went to a Hendrix. He played with us, he sat in when we were in London one time, and then we were in Detroit, and Hendrix was appearing in Detroit. So I went to the concert. It was a small hall, and I swear to God, he was so loud that I had to go outside and across the street to enjoy the concert.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's how loud he was. And my ears are shot now, like I got hearing aids and all sorts of afflictions from loud music, And you know what it is the bass. Apparently it's a bass that fucks up your ear.
Yeah, it's always
the low frequencies. I can see that.
Yeah. I'm blown away at concerts. If you want to get a good view, you're up by the front. So you're by the speakers and the bass cab. It's always those ampegs just blasting you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 2-story ampegs just blasting right in your ear. I know how that is.
So you hung out with Hendrix and shit. Do you ever go see Sabbath or meet any of them guys?
Who?
Black Sabbath?
No, we never got around to them guys.
What about I got another good one for you, and I'm curious to this because I know he didn't do partake in really much of anything, but Frank Zappa.
Cheech became friends with Frank, but when we first started out, we did a what do you call it, an audition kind of a night. We had a regular gig at the Troubadour, and so all these record guys came down to see us, Mm-hmm. And Frank Zappa was in the audience, and he came down. But Frank, Cheech will dispute this because Cheech and Frank became friends after. But at that time, we were nobody. And Frank Zappa was not thrilled to see a couple of guys doing his act because basically, I was influenced by Zappa. We all were. Not so much as he was too good of a guitar player for me to grab anything from him. Right. He never played anything, so you can go, oh yeah, I got to learn that. But his Susie Cream Cheese's talking part in his album, that really opened doors for me, And so I was quite thrilled that Frank was at our gig, and so he was walking in front of us, so we called out, hey. Herbie Cohen was his manager, and he also tried to manage us. And so we said, hey, Herbie. And so Herbie stopped, and he said, well, Frank, and we did the niceties, but Frank was not friendly, and he didn't talk. He didn't say, nice gig, you guys are great, nothing. He just said, hey, nice meeting you. And then he walked away. But Cheech and him become very, very good friends. And at the end, especially toward the end of his life, then it was too soon when he saw us. And then when he saw what we did, then everybody became a fan.
Hell yeah. Dude, that's so awesome. What can you remember about filming one of my favorite movies too, and especially because like the main, I guess, characters, your guys' boss is at the gas station. Things are tough all over.
Yes.
You guys are dressed like Arab guys, and it's just, man, you get.
Oh,
You laid that one?
But wasn't that filmed in like Cicero?
Parts of it, yeah, parts of it. But yeah, we were in Chicago in the coldest. It was the coldest day on record,
oh,
and we had to shoot a scene in the car wash.
Oh,
yeah. Oh,
But it was good because the car wash was hot water, so it was cold outside. And the only guy you felt sorry for was the traffic guy that had to stand out and make sure there was no cars. There was no cars anyway.
right.
But it was lower than 100 degrees lower. It was the coldest day in history in Chicago. And there we're outside. And the film crew fucked up because I don't know what they did. They opened they were smoking dope or something. Anyway, they left the windows open. And the pipes, the plumbing froze up in the hotel. And it kind of wrecked the rest of the hotel. Yeah. Oh man, we had a good time shooting. We used to love Chicago. Cheech and I played a place called Quiet Night.
never heard of that place.
Oh no, it was gone by the time you guys were born, I guess.
Yeah,
But it was a great place, man. And you had the Second City. I always had great comedy there, and that's where I got turned on to comedy, was in Chicago, in Second City. Yeah,
it's a melting pot of all things like creative and artistic.
a lot of blues. Yeah, all the blues. Yeah,
Blues, punk, all kinds of shit.
It still has a great blues.
Yeah, I had a
and,
choice.
jazz scene.
In Chicago, I had a choice of going to the blues club but I played blues. What the fuck? I played all the time. I'm going to go see people that I like their tunes, and I got into the white characters. I got into the black culture before I met Cheech. And so that's how I got with Motown. Everybody in the band, my band at the end, we're all black. And until we had a recording contract. And then the black guys couldn't get across the border.
Oh no!
Because they had prison records, and so the only guys we could travel with were white guys because they had their papers and they didn't have them. They could travel. They're white and they were from families that could support them, I guess. But they were the guys that got us thrown out of Windsor because we were in Motown recording our hit record. And they went home for Christmas to Canada. And then when they came back, they said, "Oh, we're recording with Motown." And they said, "Oh, really? Do you have a visa?" "No." "Okay." And so the immigration came and kicked our ass out of the States, sent us up to Windsor. And then but then I got a what do you call it? The green card.
Yeah,
And then I finally got down here legally. I got a passport, So I'm good to go.
You became U.S. resident like what, early 80s?
Yeah, early 80s when I got sworn in. When I got my passport.
Like you're out in Cali right now, right?
Yeah.
How long you been out there?
Years and years since. Actually, since 1970. 1970. Yeah. We went in and out, but eventually we bought here and we bought in Canada, of course. And now we got one of our sons are in Mexico, and we're getting all the way in Tofino and Vancouver. So
how's Ray Dawn doing, man?
She's back in LA. She's doing movies. She's doing real well.
Nice.
Yeah. Except she's living with a musician, and I don't know how long that'll last.
Oh man, gotta watch out for the musicians.
What do you call a musician without a girlfriend?
What's that?
Homeless.
That's true.
This is very true.
Yeah.
I had a question out of left field, and I wanted to sneak in here and ask it. That's usually what I do when we record these. So being that I'm sort of obsessed with talk radio and spoken comedy, like I don't usually need the visuals as much as I love the audio side of things.
Sure.
You've always had a distinct voice, even when you were doing bits and it was like, heavy stoner bit or whatever. So you slow down your voice, but you have a distinct speaking voice. No matter what you are saying, it is very distinct and it's very clear, and it's very like controlled diaphragm. Yeah, I have mush mouth, but I always gravitate when I listen to people talk. I gravitate towards people that speak clearly. And was it something that you did as a kid, or the way you were raised, or how is it that you have such a clear and clean speaking voice? Or is it just all the stage time?
No. To begin with, when I was a kid, I never talked too much, But then the party line phone came in, and so you would talk for hours on the phone with girls, and I just started trying to sound as sexy and as intelligent as I could, because it was conversation, when you're on a phone. So it is pure audio. There's no visuals at all except in your mind. And so then I realized that I had octaves with my voice. I go low, I go high, but I never really wanted to be a singer, although I ended up singing. But I did. I was very aware of my voice, sounding, and I was. And I think the bottom line was, I grew up with radio. Yeah. Listening to radio, and that was my influence, because the acting was all done with sound, and so if you wanted to sound, like a big guy and sexy, and you had the voice, you could do that. So the answer is really, yeah, I worked on it consciously on my voice on and then when we got recording, of course, then it really, then you're doing bits and everything else. But I worked on it. And by the way, Howard Stern started his career because of Cheech and Chong too.
Oh, really?
Man. Yeah, he did.
Awesome.
He did. In fact, that's why we were as big. He was the biggest Cheech and Chong fan ever, until Cheech and I broke up. And then he was a big Chong fan. And then I'd be on Howard all the time. We'd bug the shit out of Cheech. We'd phone him up, phone Cheech up. and then one time we had a thing with Howard where we were looking for the new Cheech. And so we had an audition at the comedy club in LA here, and we had everything but Mexicans show up. We had old ladies, we had folk singers, we had like a cattle car. When you advertise anything in LA, you're going to get the same people. But it was very funny. No, Howard was still a big fan, and then Robin, his sidekick, she became a big fan because she found out that my first wife was a black lady, and so Robin said, the boy likes the sister.
Hey, speaking of when when you're saying that you guys did the bit, looking for the new Cheech and stuff, what was it like when you guys split? I know, like, from what I've read and seen in interviews, I mean, he wanted to focus on more, like, I guess, serious, his acting career being more legit, I guess you could say. Was there any animosity?
I've said this before. Cheech, he really doesn't want to talk about it. It's very sensitive. It's a racial issue, and it was inappropriate for the culture. but it was only the smallest amount of people in the world, with that intellect. The university crowd, the what do you call it? The cancel culture.
Oh yeah.
That mentality,
Yeah.
So when we were playing out in Encino in California, and by then word had gotten out, that we could fill a club, and so this one club hired us for two show the weekend, and so we did the first show, but it was a dance club. It wasn't a comedy club; it was a dance club. So, in order to do a show, all the dancers had to stop dance and sit down and watch us, and so it was a tough audience. And the first show went pretty bad. We tried our stock usual show and it just bombed. And so I told Cheech, I said, "Come on, man, you're from here. There must be a character that these people can relate to." And Cheech said, "Yeah, there's one, but now he denies this now. He denies, but I was there, and I got a good memory, especially this kind of stuff." And so he said, "I don't want to do the." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, it's kind of detrimental to the cause, to the Chicanos."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, we're fucking comedians, man. That's our job. That's what we're allowed to do that.
Yeah,
I didn't say that, but that's really the truth of the matter." And so he told me about this lowrider character, and I said, "Oh, cars." I said, "Oh, okay, no problem." And I used to play a lot of black clubs, and I would watch the black comedians every night. And so it burned to their act would burn into my brain. And so there was one black comedian named Pineapple, Sir Pineapple. He used to do this bit about driving a car and picking up his date, but his whole bit, the shtick, was driving the car and people honking at him, and he would pantomime everything in the car, and then he would get his date would come out, and then he'd try to get her in the back seat, and it was all pantomime, but the car bit was great because you actually saw a car. And so I told Cheech about the bit, and Cheech is, he's a genius. He's a fast learner. And so we wrote a bit about Cheech is a Chicano with the lowrider, and he picks me up, and I'm the stoner, and we go on from there. Well, that became Up in Smoke.
Yeah.
The movie, yeah.
All my cares go up in smoke.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was the movie was going to be Cheech and Chong's greatest hits, because Lou Adler was producing the movie at the time, and that's what he saw. But when I wrote the song Up in Smoke, Cheech said, "That's the movie. That's the title of the movie," and that was yeah. And I wrote that song by myself. And I showed it to Cheech, and Cheech immediately wrote the Spanish part. But it was the start of the breakup.
Yeah.
Because up until then, Cheech and I wrote everything together. And there was he wrote that and I wrote that. But Up in Smoke was a whole different thing, because I was a songwriter before I met Cheech. And so this was my territory,
Yeah.
I said, and then when it came time, I looking back, it was 7. There's a talk about 7-year itch. Marriage lasts 7 years, and also 7.
Right.
You kind of start thinking something, is lacking and blah blah blah. But there's a 7-year cycle in a lot of things, and that's what Cheech and Chong turned out to be. We did records for about 7 years. Then we did movies for about 7 years. And then we broke up for about 14 years.
Double entendre.
And then we got back together. It was tough breaking up in a way, but it was also exciting.
Yeah.
Also exciting because starting with Up in Smoke, I started feeling like I wanted to be known for what I did, you know. And same as Cheech. The reason there was no dope in the Corsican Brothers was that Cheech says, you know, he wanted to do a straight movie without dope, you know, to see if we could do it.
Yeah.
And we did it. But that was the last movie that we ever did together. And it'll probably be the last movie that we ever did together. That control I had is gone.
Yeah.
You know? It's gone. I'll never get it back. And so we just go ahead, you know. There's so much more to look forward to than there is to whine about missing, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, whose idea was it in Nice Dreams to turn the people into lizards?
Well, when we were doing the garden, you know, where the rock star had the garden and the pool, you know, the fake pool.
Yeah, where he's out there swimming because the helicopters are coming.
Yeah.
Well, the props guy had an iguana there.
Yeah.
And the iguana was there smoking a joint. I don't know if you remember that scene.
Yeah.
So then I was looking for an out with Stacy, you know, with the cop.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I thought, what happens if he happens to be smoking that weed, you know, that turns into a lizard? Because then in my mind, my crazy mind, I thought that lizard, that iguana was a guy at one time, but he smoked the weed, he became an iguana. And so then I thought that would be good, because you always want to end the movie with them walking up going, wow, I got to see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for the most part, most of our movies, they never had an ending. They just had okay, we're going to be gone for a little while, but we'll be back.
Right.
Yeah.
What was Pee-wee like?
Oh, well, we discovered Pee-wee. You know, Pee-wee was just a little actor in the Groundlings, but he was outstanding. And so whenever we shot a movie, I would go, or Cheech too, would go to the Groundlings to look for actors.
Mm.
And because I love the improvisational, you know, that style, that was our style.
Right.
So we went down, we saw Pee-wee. Well, he could do about 1,000 different characters, but his favorite was Pee-wee. Now I liked the characters too, and he could dance on his toes. He had a way he was yeah, he is such a freak, you know. He was such
dude, you guys always had him freaking out in your movie. He's like, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not sorry.
It's so trippy. Well, that's what our movies were about. See, our movies, a lot of actors, they like to act.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the movies that you see real people doing weird things. To me, that's more of what I am, because I never had an acting lesson in my life. Neither did Cheech, really. But he never, you know. In fact, my wife started taking acting, and I learned more off her telling me the exercise than that, because what they were teaching, I was already doing, you know. So there was no learning anything. It was all instinctive, and it came from watching the Groundlings and the improv groups, the Second City, the committee, and it was the committee that gave me the Blind Melon Chitlin bit, by the way.
Really?
You know. It was white guys. And then, because I was in a blues player for forever, Cheech and I, when we decided we were going to be comedians, there was only one other club, like a folk club, where we could perform in Vancouver. And so we went to the club, and they had a T-Bone Walker at the end of his career, because I seen him before when he was doing the splits on stage. You know?
Oh, yeah.
and doing the back bend and picking up the whiskey with his teeth. And then now he's at the end of his career. He's so drunk, they had to lead him out to the seat. They handed him his guitar, which was untuned for the trip. So he had a totally untuned guitar in his lap that the bass player, while they were playing, trying to get the strings tight anyway, because right now, and he mumbled through some kind of blues, and at the end he got like a standing ovation.
Yes.
Cheech and I, we laughed. Well, we laughed. And so then Blind Melon became a staple. And not only that, but my first wife is black. And her family, they're descendants from the slaves from Texas. And their ancestors, when they got freed from slavery, they looked at the map to find the farthest part on the map they could go from Texas, and that was Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And so they wagon trained a whole slew of them up there. They got to Edmonton, but they weren't allowed to operate in Edmonton because they had the Jim Crow thing was still going on, or just starting to go. I don't know. It was going on, and so they settled in a little place called Amber Valley, and the descendants came out. Well, one of the descendants, Tommy Milton, is a beautiful singer. He got me into the blues part of my life, and then when we put a band together, the organ player Bernie Sneed was also a descendant. His sister, Maxine, I met her like she was 14, 15 years old when we went over to his house to meet Bernie. And she was the most gorgeous thing I'd ever seen. I mean, she was 14 and she was this tall, leggy, gorgeous black girl. And in fact, she's so gorgeous. She's 80 years old. She lives here in LA, and she's going on a modeling gig.
Damn!
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a picture of her with Ray Dawn and with Robbie, Robbie was also a top fashion model in Paris. That knew David Bowie and all those guys, and Ray Dawn was, of course, Ray Dawn, the actress.
Yeah.
And Maxine's one of them, and she's the one that they hired for the job. So I was that black family. So I was ingrained in the black family. And Floyd, who, by the way, became the drummer of the Three Dog Night.
No shit.
Oh, nice.
That's
okay.
My first brother-in-law. He's in LA, by the way. He's having health issues, but I got a lot of comedy. I got Blind Melon all the way from Floyd. Because Floyd would imitate his uncles on the phone. His uncle, yeah.
Yes.
And we would, Floyd was a comedian, is a comedian. Ever since I knew him since he was like 11, 12 years old. And that was the one that got him into drumming. We had a band. Next thing you know, Floyd's playing drums in it. And Floyd was so good that he had to quit our band. Him and the singer got in a big fight, and Floyd he kept growing. He started as a little guy, and he was like 6 foot something, and he was a hockey player. And when you're a hockey player that big, you've fought. You've had fisticuffs. You're a mean motherfucker. Floyd and the singer and this Tommy we knew Floyd since he was a baby, and so we'd tease him, we'd torture him basically. And Tommy says something wrong, and Floyd says, "Stop the car! Come on, stop the car. We'll take it outside." Whoa, And so Floyd went on to become the Three Dog Night, but he was the guy that got me into the Blind Melon and into the comedic mindset, because you're talking about the voice and everything else. It was me becoming so hip at such an early age, like marrying into the Black culture. Mm. I mean, once you get into that culture, it's a whole lifestyle learning. attitude that like, first of all, the word hip comes from that culture.
Right.
That ain't hip, or that's too hip. That's very hip.
Yeah.
And what they're talking about is whatever style, music, they always went beyond. You heard a tune. Okay, let's go beyond that. The blues, I mean, they really have depth. And it was the music that got the Black culture free. It was the music that kept them from being murdered when they were slaves. They would start singing, and it was the love and the joy that they brought into the families of the white kids that they raised. The South, the reason they were so fucked up was because all the rich ones were raised by black nannies, and they got that sense that there is really a lot of good stuff out there, especially musically. Once you dwell into that, and all of a sudden you hear that music, because think about it, that they brought that music with them when they were brought over, because it was the only thing that they could hang on to, that made them feel real and human, and it was their culture. They're hanging on to who they really are, and the drums to this day, it's still the rhythms and the way they used the drums to talk, because that was the first sound in the world itself, in Earth, was the sound of a drum, the boom, the first beat. And so when I got immersed into that culture, and then with the music, the taste of music, and the way you played the music, the beat, it's not just a backbeat, it's something in that's laid in there. It's a groove. You find the groove. And what you're doing is you're finding the little notes in between the notes. And so it's so clear and so right and so perfect that you don't notice it. You just enjoy it, And so when I got into that world, and that's what I brought, and Cheech grew up in South Central. He started off in the Black area, in the ghetto, and then being Mexican, he never got too far away from that culture. And so when Cheech and I got together, he had that depth, I had that depth, and we just went for it. So when we did Blind Melon Chillin', I had this thing that even made the most cynical Black guy chuckle. They wanted to hate, especially guys, that are, borrowing their culture, but instead they have to admire. Cheech and I, we were the house comedians at a club called PJ's in LA. And PJ's was predominantly a Black, kind of jazzy, R&B, all the groups play there, Earth, Wind and Fire, Carmen McRae, all the great acts there. And we were the house comedians, and we did Black bits. And at first the pimps, they'd come in there, and the Black guys, they'd turn their back on us, and they'd be talking to their whores, their dates and that. And we come on stage, and they'd be too cool to turn around, but their girlfriends would say, "Shut up! I'm going to hear these guys. They're funny. So shut up." And so next thing you know, man, we were taken right into the culture. Except Herbie Hancock. The last time I saw Herbie, became a big fan when he was a kid, but he's cool. And so he never really let us know that, he's Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
Now, the last time I saw Herbie wasn't too long ago. It was before the lockdown. And we're playing in Reno. And we'd done a few things with Herbie. Like, he had a jazz show in France, somewhere in France. And we went there. No, it was in Switzerland. somewhere, and we were invited. We went, and we were kind of on the show. But Herbie, he really appreciated it, but he always took offense of blind melon chillin'. he loved us, but when blind melon chillin' would come out, then so Herbie, last time we saw him was in Reno, Nevada, and he was going to come on after us, and so he came he watched the show. And then after he said, man, he said, man, you get playing, man. You can play, the guitar because I play. He said, and then you go into that other shit, man. And like, I guess I better check that out. Before the pandemic, I was going to retire blind. I mean, I love doing blind. I mean, those people, those white actors that had to play black guys, man, they loved it. I remember Robert Downey Jr. did it in Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder.
Yes, yep, yes. I was just gonna say,
what do you mean,
loved
you
it. He loved it. I loved it. And to tell you the truth, I did it in blackface in Still Smoking in the movie. And I purposely did it because I didn't want. I did it to show the people that the blackface wasn't an insult to the black race. It was a compliment to the black race. It was the only way we could get their humor on stage without being killed or arrested. And so the black actors and that did it, they didn't do it out of cowardice. They did it out of the respect for that culture. And like Amos and Andy, I mean, because we all, the color black or whatever, black seems to stand out more, but we all bleed red, and so the color is just a genetic thing that happened because some of us were in the sun, and some of us weren't,
right?
And some had a little bit of sun, and that's it. That's all it is, But but I understand, the Black Lives Matter and all that attitude. We did a gig one time, and we hired so anyway, we it was a thing I set up in LA, and we hired these waitresses. My girlfriend, now wife, Shelby, was one of the waitresses, and there's another waitress that was going with Bernie, my black brother-in-law, and Cheech and I. Oh man, we not only did Blind Melon Chillin', Cheech used to do a character called Right On Washington. Right on, right on, right on. And you got more soul. And don't forget the movie, the Jackson 5 story starring the Osmond brothers. And we had all these black jokes, man. And the blacks that we played to, I mean, that's why they hired us, because we were hip act, man. Oh, it was so crazy. So much fun.
Who would you say who was the coolest music? Because I mean, dude, you've met all these people. You've had a hell of a career. Who, music-wise, musician, who's the coolest to hang out with and party with?
Actually, Cheech was the partier. I mean, hanger out. Cheech had what's his name? The singer,
Jim Croce.
Jim Croce. Thank you. Cheech and Jim got to be really good friends, and Cheech hung out with him a lot. John Hammond Jr. He was a blues white guy. Cheech hung out with him. Ayrton. Ayrton was the coolest. Ayrton was a percussionist. He was with Miles Davis for many years, and him and Flora Perrine. She won the jazz thing of the vocalist, and she did time in terminal prison for cocaine. And
Wow.
Ayerto, and it's Cannibal Adderley, that group. Because we used to work. We worked one time with, was it Cannibal? Yeah, must have been. We opened for Cannibal. That's why we were there. Yeah, Cannibal Adderley. He became Bill Withers.
Oh,
I think Bill Withers was the coolest guy. We not that we got stoned together, but we hung together because Bill was starting out the same time Cheech and Chong were, exactly the same time. And so we double billed at the Troubadour a couple of times, and he was great. Bill was great because he had a sense of humor too, man. And he said he worked for Boeing's. He used to do this in his act, and he made toilets for the Boeing's the jets.
Yeah.
And he said when he was making those toilets, he'd always envision Elizabeth Taylor's butt sitting on one of his.
Famous butt.
Right. Good slogan.
Awesome. Who do you think would outsmoke who, Tommy? And be honest with me. You and Snoop sit down for a session. Who's going to bed first?
Well, it's really hard to say, you know. One time Snoop did a Up in Smoke tour.
Yeah.
And he had a 6-foot bong. And they invited me up to smoke out of the 6-foot bong. Well, I smoked out of it. No, I was laid up for about a week after that.
Really?
Oh man.
But Snoop did not smoke out of it. So I think I'm like the Trailer Park Boys. You know, if the camera's rolling, I'll do anything. You know?
Right.
Snoop, to be honest, Snoop, he's old school. I love Snoop. He's old school. But you hand those old school guys a joint, say goodbye.
Oh yeah.
It's gone. It's gone forever.
What was that? Was that Half Baked? Or is like I quit yesterday?
Yeah. I just quit yesterday.
I quit yesterday.
Scavenger smoker. He's like, Dan, you got scavenger smoker.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was a fun movie. I didn't get to work with any of the actors because I did the prison scene in there. But wasn't that serendipity?
Yeah, the Squirrel Master.
Think about that, man. Think about that. That was at least a year before I went to jail.
Yeah.
And
how fucked up is that, man?
Right after that, I went to jail, man. And you know what they had there? They had little ground squirrels. I became a squirrel master. I didn't have a pet. But I would walk out with the food was so bad that the inmates would take the food and walk out to the field and feed the ground squirrels. And so I had a squirrel climb up my leg of my pants. You know, he wasn't my pet, but yeah, isn't it that's so weird?
That's crazy.
I did that movie, and the next thing you know, I'm not wearing the orange jumpsuit. I never wore the orange jumpsuit. I always had a hip car keys on, but yeah, I did the jail, and it wasn't bad, man. You know,
you were in there with the Wolf of Wall Street, weren't you?
I sure was. Yeah, I was in there with a lot of people that I was in there with I guess it was a Nixon speechwriter.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, he was in there. I was in there with, a lot of doctors, a lot of lawyers, and eventually the Wolf of Wall Street. And Jordan Belfort came in. Yeah, I helped him with his book. Nice. And the way I helped him was that I was writing my book, you know, and every night he'd come in, I'd be writing my book. He said, what you writing? I said, my book. He said, I'm going to write a book. And so he disappeared, wrote a couple of pages and came back, handed it to me. What do you think of this? And I read it, and he had copied literally word for word the Bonfires of the Vanities. You know? And he says, so what do you think? I says, what? You didn't do shit. I said, that's Vampires of the Vanities, you know. And so he kind of got shocked. He goes, so what should I write? I said, write the stories that you've been telling me every night. Write that. I said, no. And he said, just write them. And I said, the most of. And he said, what do you mean by the most of? I says, that's a rule, a writing rule. I mean, you're writing it, so you can make it anything you want. You know, if it was big, you can make it bigger. You can make it out of this world, you know. So always blow up whatever you're writing, make it big. Make it the most ever. I said the most of.
Yeah.
That was all I said to him. A few months later, he's peeping his horn at my door because we were clowns that weren't supposed to fraternize together, you know, especially on probation. And he yells up, he says, I sold my book. They're going to make a movie.
Oh, wow.
Martin Scorsese is going to direct it. Sorry, my book.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was funny. Yeah, we stayed friends. He was a stone trumpy, so I couldn't. He couldn't get too. You know, I mean, you know, there's that problem. I've got a lot of friends that are trumpies, by the way, too, but we just don't go. We don't talk politics at all.
Yeah,
you know?
you can't.
Yeah.
Religion and politics, you know, save that shit for your own private time and family.
Well, it's like if you want to wallow in your ignorance, that's up to you, you know.
Yeah.
So go for it, you know. And I'll say, hey, way to go. You know?
There you go.
For sure. What do you think, like all these years later, what does it feel like to you? Because like to me, you guys, Cheech and Chong, are like, there's so many like comedic tandems and just like duos, whether it's comedy or not, but you think of like Beavis and Butthead, Bill and Ted. Like, I think growing up on them, and you guys were a generation before, but I was still watching and growing up on you guys too, even though you guys were already done by the time like I came around. But to know that, like, in my opinion, I think you guys influenced a lot. Like I said, there is no Beavis and Buttheads without Cheech and Chong and all these like Harold and Kumar, you know, stuff like that. Like, what's that feel like, man? I mean, that's the ultimate success story, you know. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Well, the thing is, it's almost like we're not finished yet. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You know, we weren't actors, or we weren't, you know, just doing a period in someone's life. It was this is really who we are still. You know, and I still got the comedy. You know, it's what I do. It's what I live and breathe comedy. I go to the doctors, and I had the most fun with the doctors because, oh man, I mean, it's perfect. It's like doing improv. You know, they ask you questions and you can answer, and I can flirt with them. I have so much fun, but it's all comedy. And what comedy does. And comedy is truth, by the way.
Yes.
A lot of comedians, they become comedians. They don't know it, but they need the therapy. They need someone to talk to and to run ideas through. And they need an audience. You know, people need an audience or listeners. You know, so you guys, you know, you want someone to understand what you're trying to say. And then, because when you're talking and when you're performing, you're learning. It's up to you. You know, a lot of people, like they do with music, you know, a lot of people learn the one tune, boom, that's it. That's who I am. That's what I'm going to do, you know, and eventually they'll commit suicide or something. They have to play the same goddamn tune over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Cheech and I, we both had this. We're interested. What's behind this other door? You know, what's going on over here? Or that's a country. Oh, I'd love to go there. I'd love to. You know, there's so much life to live. You know, and that's why when the lockdown came, I rejoiced. I was happy. you're off the road. I was thrilled.
Yeah.
Thrilled. I don't need that. I wanted to continue with my art, my carving, sitting at home, not having to go anywhere. I enjoyed traveling, but not having to travel can be even more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because I used to say there's nothing happier than a rich hippie.
That's what I was actually going to ask you that to kind of piggyback off of your answer was you're at this stage of your career. And it is also cool to watch. When I discovered you, I was a kid and I didn't know the context of what you were doing, and the comedy, like, it had a big impact on me. But then, you and Cheech broke up and you had your separate, very thriving careers in all these different things.
Yep.
And now you're coming back and it's different, but it's a little the same, but it's different. And what I mean to say is it's fantastic when we see, like, online or whatever, when we see you guys back and smiling together and like everything's cool.
I'm always checking out the TikToks.
But where do you find you kind of mentioned it with the wood carving and other things, but where do you find inspiration to continue to be creative, to continue to, it looks like you just love all aspects of life and interacting with other humans, but is there somewhere where you keep pulling, like, shit, I like this, is there, where do you find are there some specific places where you find that stuff that just, keeps you smiling and going and wanting to make new creative things?
Right here.
There you go. Yep, for sure.
You get a little cannabis in the brain, and
oh yeah,
you see what happens. Cannabis was a religious sacrament before it became anything. The natives in India, by the way, in India, they really, there's still cults now that will smoke themselves into oblivion. You talk about smoking with Snoop Dogg, go to the cults. They smoke for about a week, I think, nonstop, and then they have visions. Cannabis is the closest thing you'll ever get to God, because what happens, you either have funny thoughts, it'll enhance what's ever there. Now, if you're on a horror movie thing, you'll come up with some real scary shit.
Oh yeah.
If you're a rapper, you're going to come up with some really good lyrics. If you're a comedian, you're going to come up with the funniest shit in the world. And it's all cannabis inspired however you do it. I got breast strips, I got joints, I got unimaginable. And the thing is about cannabis, you're not scratching an itch. You're not soothing a sore. What you're doing is you're communicating with your higher power. That puts you a direct link. That's what, and when Moses talked to the burning bush, that's what they meant in the Bible. And that's what I told Jordan, the most of, in the Bible, man, they most of everything,
Yeah.
Splitting the Red Seas and, stopping, angels and creating, fish out of the, all these miracles and that, but it's a cannabis inspired because it relaxes the mind. You see, the mind is like a motor. It's going all the time. Sometimes you can get it down to putter or idle, but usually it's going really because you got a lot of shit to think about. You got a lot to worry about. You got this, you got that.
Tommy, it hurts. I'm going to be honest.
Right?
Yeah. But the cannabis slows it down.
Yes.
Slows it down to the point where you what was I thinking about?
What were you just talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a cannabis. That's a secret. And it's not a secret.
No.
But what you have to do, here's the trick. It's very simple. We are all eternal beings. Now, when I say we, I'm talking about our souls, the thing that animates this body. The thing that animates your body, it's the soul. And the soul is eternal because the soul is really invisible, totally invisible. There's no weight, there's no nothing. The soul as heaven. See, everything, for every action, there's a reaction.
Yeah.
For every up, you can't have up without down. You need both. And the spiritual world has nothing but love. So you're in the physical world. We're in the physical world. Hell, what they depict hell is in the physical world because you got fire. In order to have fire, you have to have oxygen. In order to have oxygen, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. So you got water. And in order to be hot, you have to have heat. You have to be in the physical world. And so the spiritual world, our souls, which are not in the physical world, they're the life force of us here. That's what keeps us here is that soul. And we are attached to our maker. And the way we are attached, the Tibetans call it a silver cord. The silver cord goes from us to our overself. Each of us, we're all individuals, but we have an overself, right to left, top to bottom, life to the overself. Now, when this body disappears or perishes, we go back through that silver cord to our overself. Now we're still us. I'm still me, you're still you. And we go over our life, what we've done with the overself, and then we decide what we need for the next course, the next place. Now, if we've painted ourselves in the corner somehow with violence and evil or whatever, chances are we'll have to go back and become, learn what we never learned.
Yeah.
See, and the ones that are evolved, the Mozarts, they come back and they're playing piano from the cradle. They're doing it, and that goes on forever. So what I'm trying to tell everybody is there's a God app. Now I love the way the phone has simplified our life.
Yeah.
To the point where we're talking to each other. We could never do this, years ago. I would have never
thought I've been able to do this with you, brother.
Not too many years ago. Not
exactly.
too many. And so, you talk about, missing us. I was there when I watched them put electricity into my house,
Shit.
And so that's how far back I go. And so now here we are. We have an app. We got a phone where I can tell that phone, hey, listen, start my car, or or
start my wife's car.
Find my wife, or even better yet,
chip too.
Find me a wife.
Yeah,
you can do that on your phone. You can do everything. So what I'm saying about the app that we have, it's called the God app. Now, if you look at the Lord's Prayer, everything you need to know about the world and life and everything is all in the world in the Lord's Prayer, the Christian prayer, the Our Father who art in heaven.
Yeah.
First line, our Father of all of us, our Father who art in heaven. He's not here, he's in heaven. And if you read scripture, you'll find out that God is too pure to behold iniquities. In other words, when you do evil, God's not looking at you and saying, no, you shouldn't do that. God doesn't see it. See, God doesn't see dumb assholes. They are invisible to him. You see. Yeah. So, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. That's very important. Think about this. When people say, oh God, what are they doing? They're either having sex, oh God, or they're given some good news or bad news. Mm-hmm. Oh God. Or they tasted something that was so delicious, Oh my God. It's always God. It's always God.
Yeah.
Hallowed be thy name. Now that's how much power that name has. Now we get people, I'm so above God, I'm so over God. I'm an atheist. Well, it's fine. Good. You're here learning how to be an atheist. Good luck. Have a, enjoy your misery. The God app, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. It's not ours, it's his. God's kingdom come. And God's will be done. So no matter what happens, it's God's will be done. So when you realize you're eternal beings, that you'll always be here, then it's hard to feel sorry for people that are transitioned for whatever reason, be it a Holocaust, be it a war, be it a sickness, be it death, be it whatever. It's just like someone left. How'd they leave? On the bus or the train or the plane? Who gives a shit? They're gone, Yeah. And so hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. On earth as it is in heaven. In other words, heaven is nothing more than love. And it's a place that we go. You don't need a rest in heaven because there's no want, need, or desire. And so you're there, I don't know, because there's no time either. Because in eternity, there's no such thing as time. You see, time only works in the physical world. That's why the spiritual world, because there's no time, there's nothing to be old or young or another. It just is. Just like moments that we're having these moments. It just is. But while we're having these moments, the earth is turning. And as it turns, it goes through space. And as it goes through space, things change. And that's what we're into. So we only have a limited time to be on this earth. But in order to be happy, in order to be creative, in order to be joyful, we have to connect with the higher power. And the cannabis will do it. Meditation will do it. Just sitting there quietly will do it. There's no secret to it because that's who we are. But when you find that God app and you put all your mind on your faith, on the God app, and then scripture says, he will perfect that which concerns you. Meaning, if you're a brain surgeon, you're going to go, oh, well, look what happens if I do that. For instance, I'm sitting there watching the shootings of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't feel anger or any of that. I see what it is. And then I went to my God app and I said, what is the answer? And I got the answer. And it blows my mind because now I'm trying to figure out how to give this how to work this answer into reality. And now I'll go to the God app again and whatever is needed to appear. But let me tell you what the answer is. Years ago, while I was a musician, I won't say before, but while I was a musician, one of the jobs I had was the only white-collar job that I ever had. And I wanted it so bad because I quit school and I started driving a truck. I started working on a roofing and construction. I was always dirty. I was always dirty shoes, dirty. And so I wanted the white-collar job. I wanted to dress up in a suit and go to work and come home and be clean, And so I had this friend of mine, he became an insurance inspector. And I said, what's that? What's that? Well, what it is that when you buy car insurance, there's a company called Hooper Homes that sends an agent around to your neighborhood to find out, number one, if you really own the car, Number 2, what kind of neighborhood it is. Number 3, what kind of guy that's being insured. Does he have a drinking problem? Does he beat his wife? Is he a escape convict? Who knows? But the agent comes in, does a report, talks to the neighbors. No one knows who he's there, why he's there, and then writes up a good report. The guy gets his insurance. If there's something wrong, they write up a bad report. The guy doesn't get his insurance. And so here's my solution for the gun problem is that you insure America against guns with insurance companies. And so if anything happens, the insured, the people that are injured, they get all the weight of the government's legal fees. So whatever they will attack, whatever the problem is, if it's a gun manufacturer, usually that's who you go after. And then like Remington got put out of business with the Sandy Hook. And this AKA will probably get put out of business by this shooting. Mm-hmm. But what you do, you insure the victims of the shooting. But better is that you have insurance inspectors that know the neighborhood, and they also monitor the internet, so that when there's any signs of trouble, the agent in that area contacts the authorities. Now, I also want to start a group called militia, because in the First Amendment, the Second Amendment is that we're allowed to not only have guns, but to have a well-organized militia.
Yeah.
And that's what we're missing. So we need a militia, and the militia's job really is to keep these nutcases from carrying out whatever plan they want to carry out. So you don't leave it to the local Andy Griffin cop. You don't leave it to the feds. You don't need the feds. You got an insurance militia there to take care of the problem. Now, if the problem needs to be incarceration, that can happen. But for the most part, the problem really needs is a visit to the doctor's office and to get rid of any kind of dangerous weapons that the kid might have. But rather than to try to legislate yourself out of it, you can never do that. And when they did, they had time limits on that automatic weapon bill that they passed when Brady got shot. Now they got a time limit. Oh, it expired. Now you can have the AKAs. Well, you can have any weapon you want, but you're going to have to face the courts when that weapon hurts anybody or does anything wrong. And if it just sits there, fine, no problem. And so you don't bother anybody. But the way you solve problems is in a capitalist system is to make it worth some money. And so the insurance inspectors are getting paid. The insurance companies are getting paid for their coverage. Everybody's making money, and you're creating work too. So isn't that a great?
Are you running in 2024?
No.
Right?
You can't. You were born in Canada, right?
No. You don't want to be a politician. You can't do shit.
Yeah, you can't. Everyone else does it for you.
No, you got to be. You got to be a free comedian like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can think of all this weird shit and then put it in action. Now, what I want to do is I want to feed the idea like to Biden himself, because I'd love Joe to come out and say, here's my idea, boom, and get all the credit, because the credit doesn't do me good.
Right.
So I want to find the right guy, and that's what I'm on the lookout for now. It could be Biden, it could be Swalwell, any of those guys, the intelligent ones, the ones that aren't corrupted, But I've got the homeless solution. I got, more than the
What
homeless.
about a gas solution right now, Tommy?
What?
A gas crisis. I can't drive to work.
What kind?
A gas crisis.
Oh, the gas. Okay. Like we got the solution. We already have electric cars.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't have one.
Electric
I'm still
cars.
paying off my gas one.
Still trying to pay off my gas guzzler.
On that gas guzzler while you can. Get yourself an electric car. Get yourself a hybrid at least.
Yeah, there you go.
At least get a hybrid. Man, my son still drives my Prius, and we got three
Prius.
Teslas in the family, and we're going to get electric cars, man.
Yep.
Yeah, we got everything. Like for instance, what's going on in the Ukraine?
Yeah.
It's all good. I know people say, well, blah, the people are getting killed and everything. No, people are being warned to get the fuck out of there, because you know what's happening? Demolition. They're tearing down the old order. It's beyond just a war. It's not a war. It's Putin doing something right for a change. He has no idea why. He's going to the war. But really what it is that unless you tear the shit down, people, especially in Europe, they'll keep it forever. The only way you're going to get rid of these things is tear that shit down. And a lot of things, what they're bombing is like communist era housing. If you look at some of the structures and the good structures, they're already rebuilding them. You see, but what they're going to be able to do now, though, if they're smart, and they are smart, like we got Elon Musk here to tell them that the power grid should be green, the power the line should be run underground. You should be able to create a whole country, agricultural country. I see fields and fields of hemp and cannabis growing in the Ukraine, because wouldn't that mellow out that area?
Yeah, it would. That's a solution right there.
Forget about bread, wheat. Yeah, have some of that, but hemp and cannabis, the whole country. There now you got a industry, you got a green industry, and you're working on the mind, and then everybody will copy you. Russia is going to copy it. Eventually, I think Russia might become part of the Ukraine.
Hey, as long as they stop killing people over there, I guess.
Well,
we all need to hit a joint, Tommy.
Yeah, well, the people that are dying now are soldiers and people that don't want to leave, and it's all being recorded for war crimes. Right. This shit's not going to get away. Just like the insurrection, just because people are saying, well, why won't they put them in jail? They're waiting, man. They're dragging this out as long as they can to show everybody how ignorant Trump was and is, and all those Ted Cruz's, all those idiots, man. They're all corrupt and they're beyond saving, So let them, let them go the route. Keep out there until they elect the right people, and they will. We're going to get some really good people in here, including Democrats. Including Republicans. Because we just gotta we're just gotta get over this demolition part of our the demolition part of the war.
Do you think we're going to see legal recreational marijuana across the board anytime soon in the U.S.?
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. And right now, it is now. Yeah, people say, well, it's not legal in my state. Yeah, but how many people are smoking it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
everybody.
It's not legal. Oh, it's not legal here. Yeah. Okay, that means you have to know a guy,
Yeah.
Or a girl, or a family, or your grandmother, or whatever, Well, it's all right now. But you know why it isn't legal?
Well, I other than financial reasons, or are you talking about going way back to where they made it illegal?
No, I'll tell you why it's not. Why it's so hard to change the law is because America, when they made it illegal, and when the war on drugs hit, they started paying countries big sums of money to eradicate their marijuana crops. In order to change that, you have to, first of all, you have to cut off the money. Now you can't do that because it was passed by Congress, blah, blah, blah. They can keep going that. Congress, that's why they haven't rescheduled it yet. They have to deal with all the treaties that they had with all the countries that they had where you talked them into not growing. They had Nepal, for fuck's sake, stopping the hash. That was the hash capital of the civilization.
Hell yeah.
And then all of a sudden they got Nepal saying, no, you can go to jail for hash. The king used to put a stamp on the fucking thing, you know?
Yep.
And so we're going to, it's legal now. It's always been legal, right is right, and just making a law against it, it's a racist law to begin with.
Yeah.
And you should never obey any racist law, no matter what it is, even just out of respect for other people,
How weird is it to you that in this day and age, like the different ways of smoking as compared to back in the day, where it was like a joint or a bong or, a pipe.
And the quality.
Yeah, the quality. That's what I want to know, because I talk to a lot of older cats that are like, man, the shit nowadays, it's like, it's science, and it is. You got people crossbreeding, doing all this intricate stuff that I can't.
It's too strong.
Plant my backyard alive to save my life.
Some of it is.
Grow it. Yeah.
It's too strong. A lot of it's too strong, man. I can't do gummies anymore. Fuck. I did a half a gummy and then I thought, I don't think that's working. I did the other half. Oh man, I was in a coma almost,
What
it
about
was too strong?
Yeah, dude, I've had some really strong, like cookies, all kinds of stuff with gummies.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I mean,
stay away from
damage.
that.
Like in high school, yeah, we just have, the Reggie, we'd call it, the brick weed, the tons of seeds in it, enough where we could probably grow a damn farm.
Yeah, well, I don't want to bust anybody's bubble, but a lot of that is just posturing. When you start comparing, the Bible says, "Judge not," and the reason it says that is that when you judge, make an opinion over something, that ends your education. So when you don't judge, period, then you're always open for whatever knowledge you're going to get out of it, you see. And when you judge, you stop your education. Well, I don't want to, that's what racism is, really. He's black, I don't want him around. I heard a lot of bad things, but, come on, what the fuck, meet the guy, or the girl or something, oh, they're nice. Oh, they can cook.
Yeah. Because they're fucking.
So that's why you don't want to judge. And same as getting high. Back in the day, the weed hasn't changed. 5,000 fucking years, it hasn't changed. 10 million years, it hasn't changed. The weed, your grandfather's weed's not as strong as it is. Bullshit. I'm a great grandfather. The weed back then, the same weed as right now. You can call all the names. Brownies, cookies, bullshit you want, man. It's either you got weed or you ain't got weed.
Yeah. And I hate not having it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the only type of weed I don't want.
I never had it for 3 years. And the closest I came, there's a plant called lion's ear. Mm. And when I was in prison, we had a herbalist garden. And he brought me some lion's ear, and it's a plant they make hedges out of. But anyway, it's in the book, lion's ear, and you dry up the leaf and you crumble it up and you smoke it, and woo, it gave me other people's dreams.
Oh wow! Oh my God, that's awesome.
Isn't that cool? It wasn't my dream. I don't recognize that dream at all.
Yeah, who is this? It was
somebody else's dream.
Whose pants are these?
What about have you done the dabs at all?
Oh,
yeah, I did dabs, but I'm not really
too much. Like right at you all at once. It's like doing I remember back in the day, man. Like
doing the gas mask. Yeah, dude.
The vaporizer where you fill the bag.
I think, you know,
Gas mask.
when Snoop Dogg did his Up in Smoke tour, I smoked out of a 6-foot bong.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to really get my mind around doing anything like that since. And so Cheech loves the dabs. He's the dab guy. I'm not. I'm definitely not. I'm an old skinny joint roller, you know.
What do you say? What was it like? Man, I hope your dick's bigger than that joint.
There was a lot of that talk in there. Oh my God.
Dude,
that was a lot of fun.
Tommy, if you look right above Stratton's shoulder there, he's got one of your infamous albums. And infamous not only because of its great comedy album, but the giant fucking rolling paper. This thing was like a legend.
Wasn't that great?
Dude,
that great?
Awesome. Where did
you know
that
what
come
killed
from?
me is that there were so many parents that had no idea what we were doing. Oh, the giant rolling paper. They had no connection. Just like, do you ever see the Cheech and Chong license plates they're selling called Muff Diver?
No.
We signed a ton of them. And they're on TV, on their YouTube, you know, or whatever is selling them. Muff Diver. And when we sign autographs, you know, people will bring them around. They don't know what it means. They have no fucking clue. And so rather than telling them, I'll let them find out for themselves. But that cracks me up, man. You know, they won't let you do certain things, but you got away. You know, we got around that one. You know, well, the whole Up in Smoke movie, man, was like we broke every kind of cinematic rule as far as you know, being censored. Well, in fact, we started a new censor thing, excessive drug use. that was PG-13 for excessive drug use.
Right. Were you guys really getting fucking stoned?
What's that?
Were you guys really getting stoned on set?
Oh, yeah.
What about that big fucking the Labrador joint? Was that a prop? Was that a gimmick?
No, it was a prop.
Okay. Oh yeah, look at that.
No, they're good. The kind of weed we smoke, you don't need a lot of.
I hear you, brother. I got like maybe not even a quarter through this fucking big bamboo. And
did you smoke it? Have you been smoking it?
Oh, I at the start of the show, man. I got pretty much damn near through it, but
let's see what you say. Damn near through it. I don't think so. Not even close.
I smoked maybe about this much.
Not even close. Yeah.
What I meant to say was I'm damn near through it because this shit got me so fucking toasted.
I know. That's what I'm saying, man. That's why when they say who can outsmoke anybody, well, fuck that, man. Who can outcreate? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Who can outcreate that? Then now we're talking. Yeah.
Well, speaking of creating, Tommy, as we wind down here, what do you got in the works? I know you're going to be doing some shit with that 90s show, right?
It looks that way. You know, I already did one little bit. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That'd be fun. You know, yeah, it's a nice, easy shot. It's fun to do. It's fun to see. We got a documentary coming out. I've got some really, really huge plans that are mind-boggling. You know, I have to beat Elon Musk. I'm going to phone the Mike Lindell and say, hey, Mike, when you get a hold of Elon, tell him I need to talk to him.
What about you guys? Don't you also have a medical dispensary or something like that, right? Don't you guys you sell some cannabis?
We're selling CBD. We're selling Nice Dreams and Good Vibes CBD. This is my Put You to Sleep CBD. And it's for older women and older guys that need to sleep. And you take this and and you wake up 8 hours later feeling good. And then I got another upper that if you're feeling down, you need a little tonic, take a little good vibes, and there's no THC involved, and so you're not zonked out, although you're feeling good. That's a nice feeling. I have to sometimes really question myself, why, especially when the pandemic was around, because I was saying, am I starting to get that COVID, or I'm just stoned? Oh, I'm just stoned.
You didn't catch COVID, did you?
Nope.
You had it?
Nope. My wife thinks we've had it, but we've never failed a test. So to me, if you unless you failed a test and had to quarantine, you haven't got it.
Yeah.
It's my son and his wife, they all got it. A lot of people I know got it, but I'm age exempt, I'm way too healthy. Too healthy.
How many joints would you say you smoke a day?
Not a whole lot. Maybe, I guess altogether, maybe about two joints.
It's pretty light. You're not giving it the old Peter Tosh one. I heard stories of that guy smoking ounces.
I don't see to create. I just need a couple of tokes to create.
Right. Right.
And that's all I really need. And that's all I do. That's why I like this joint. I'll put it out because I like the ritual of lighting, and there's a whole ritual. My dad used to smoke cigarettes, and he had a way of smoking that was just, I would just be fascinated by it, because he enjoyed it so much. He had a whole thing how he did, and there was a whole culture where they tapped their cigarettes, and you had smoke breaks, and you had if you had a girl and you lit both cigarettes at the same time and give her one. Oh, there's all sorts of cool smoking things that are no more. But the pot smoking thing, that's to me, it's a solo outfit. It's a solo outfit.
Well, like
we used to do a bit.
You pass it to the wrong person, you ain't never getting it back.
Yeah.
Like shredding over there, man. I never see that thing. Or he hot boxes it so hard it's running.
Now, how about the friends that never have any dope?
Yep.
There's those guys too.
Always.
Never have.
They're always around.
They got a job, but they ain't got the dough.
But they got the rap.
Yeah.
And so by having the rap, they get the dope. Yeah. And the thing is, if you're hanging around, you can't say, hey, you can smoke, but you can't. Everybody gets a dope.
Yeah,
that's good.
Pass the peace pipe, man.
Well, I learned to smoke skinny joints because it was if I smoked any more, then I wouldn't play as good, musically.
Right.
And so I could get through a set with no problem,
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, Cheech and I, we used to sometimes smoke before we went on stage, but definitely after we got off stage, we'd have a cigarette or a pot, a joint.
You ever get cottonmouth? Because a lot of me and Bodie, we do vocals in like really heavy metal bands, but the cottonmouth. So I don't do it until after I play now, because I'm up there and I'm trying to scream and do all this stuff. And I'm like,
that's a tough one. Cottonmouth, man. Oh man. I've made people stop to get off the freeway in rush hour and find. So I tell them I have to pee, but what I really needed was some water and something, because you almost panic. You go, if there's none around, man, I need my water. Yeah, cottonmouth.
Yeah, it's the absolute worst. So as we close here, Sretton, Bodie, anything else that you guys would like to know from the man?
Just thank you. I know watching the Cheech and Chong movies as I was growing up, that's definitely where I got my sense of humor from, and I still carry it to this day. So as a musician and just a fan, It's a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for your time.
What's your instrument?
Guitar. I also do some drum programming, recording.
Oh yeah.
Some keyboard stuff.
Programming.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to learn how to do that shit. Well, no, I need to find a guy that knows how to do that shit.
There you go.
That's what I need. Mr. Voiceover.
Right, dude, you've done a ton of voiceover shit, man. That's awesome. I've always wanted to do that because I do weird shit with my voice.
Love it. I love
dude,
it.
It's gotta be fun,
so
man.
Easy.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's
easy. Fun. And you don't have to wear pants if you don't want to.
Right?
Look at that.
Hey,
Perfect.
some of those projects you've been on too, brother, I'm sure it's a hell of a payday, you know?
Well, some are. We're doing good. We're probably going to be more active in selling our weed, you know, as dope dealers, you know. We've got a new. Oh yeah. Yeah, we could get Cheech and I could start a new band. Yeah. I was thinking of putting a group together, some musicians together, you know, just for a gig.
You should do something. Do it at the Whiskey or something out there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but then I said, "Oh, fuck it."
Well, I'd like to take the opportunity because I don't know if I said it earlier, and I was going to do it off mic, but I might as well do it on here, and we'll keep it in the show. And you've heard this from thousands and thousands of people, but I do want to say thank you for the entertainment that you have provided and the influence that you have had on my brain and the way that I fucking developed as a human. As crazy as that sounds, you know, we've been doing this for a few years, and I've met some awesome people, but this is like to get to interact with you on the internet, which is, you know, a miracle in itself, I guess. But yeah, man, like I'd like to say since I was 8 or 9 years old and having zero context of the marijuana stuff, I think I was in my mid-20s when I actually watched Up in Smoke. I watched Corsican Brothers and I listened to the tapes over and over. And so it was the next thing that I listened to comedically on tape was like the Adam Sandler bits that he used to do. And and even though they were great, they just didn't have the punch and they didn't have the mold. Like they weren't the building blocks of my, I guess, comedic development. And I don't know if I always think I'm really funny, but I don't know if other people think I'm funny. Yeah, whatever. But it was a huge influence, and I can talk for hours about this shit, but I just want to say thank you. Mm-hmm. If Cheech was here, I'd tell him thank you, but I specifically want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for the stuff you talked about with us, and just bottom line for the shit that you've created, man. This is like anybody that would have ever gotten an opportunity to do an interview like this, and I know the boys feel this way. I am fucking grateful for this shit. I'll never forget this my whole life. So this is great. So thank you very much. That's really all I wanted to say.
Is your mic on?
Yeah.
Were you talking?
I was.
No, I heard you, man. Thank you.
That was great.
That was nice.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
Until next time, if you ever want to do this again, whenever you got something you want to promote, come on. Let's, you know, our audience loves you. They love Cheech and Chong. They love Chong. Tommy Chong, man, dude.
Okay. I will be back, as a guy would say. Take care, man.
Awesome. You take care. Take it easy, bud.
Hey, just like that. That was a epic
the legend
episode 16 with Tommy fucking Chong.
None other.
For those of you that didn't believe it was going to happen, well, it just fucking did. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and share this episode with all your stoner friends, all your good buds, so to speak.
And light one up when you listen to it.
Yeah, for sure. Get down with us. It's like a watch along, you know, you got to fucking spark one up for the juice, for Bodie, for Shredding the Savage. Yeah. Hey, download this podcast episode and all previous 15 episodes of the JPDUB podcast on any podcasting platform. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Every post that we make, just hit like. 1 second. Takes 1 second out of your life. And we can keep doing cool shit like this. Hey, we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, the Juice, Bruiser Bodie, Shred the Savage. We out of this bitch. Yeah. If you like that video, then please hit subscribe and share with all of your friends, and continue to support the JPDUB podcast. We're all over the place on all podcasting platforms for your stimulation.